Good afternoon and welcome to this Beyond the Basics training for the California Educator Reporting System, or CERS. Today we're going beyond the basics of CERS custom groups and individual student reports. This training session is brought to you by the California Department of Education, and it's an intermediate to advanced level training designed for CERS users who want to understand custom groups and individual student reports. We also want to acknowledge that this training builds upon that Introduction to CERS trainings, which are available both as recordings of a live training and as a series of micro-learning videos that can be viewed at any time. And links to all of that great stuff are in your resource guide. Let's look at our agenda for today. By the end of today's training, you will be able to create custom groups, which includes using those advanced filters, generate individual student reports, or ISRs, either individually or in bulk. Let's talk about the CERS Sandbox training tool. If you were with us for those Introduction to CERS trainings, you'll know that there's an excellent tool called the CERS Sandbox. For all system demonstrations and explorations, this is what we're going to be using. The Sandbox allows educators to get familiar with CERS in a non-secure environment, which means the CERS Sandbox is a public website, so the URL can be shared with anyone interested in learning more about CERS. And the Sandbox has all of the same features and functions as the live CERS environment. It uses fictitious data, and the interim assessment items in the Sandbox are actually publicly released sample items. So specifically, the CERS Sandbox does not have the test questions from any live and secure interim or summative assessments, which makes the Sandbox a great tool for individual exploration and group training. There's no need to worry about keeping the items, the results, the data, the student information secure when using the Sandbox. We also want to note a few quick differences between the CERS Sandbox and the live CERS environment. First is the purpose. The Sandbox purpose is for training on CERS features and functions, not for analyzing data. And some of the assessment rules, like the alternate assessments for all rule, do not apply in our Sandbox. You are going to see students with results from an alternate assessment and a general assessment. It's just a Sandbox thing. The second difference is security. As we just mentioned, the CERS Sandbox is public. It's a public website that uses fictitious students and data. But the live CERS environment has real student data and personally identifiable information and is therefore secure and password protected. And lastly is access. And what we mean by access is that a role is chosen from a drop-down menu before entering the CERS Sandbox. Choosing a role in the Sandbox can be helpful for users who want to learn how CERS appears for the different roles. Like if you're an administrator and you want to see the teacher view in CERS, you can select a teacher role in the CERS Sandbox. In the live CERS environment, users will not select a role. In the live CERS environment, it uses the role or roles that have been assigned to you in the Test Operations Management System, or TOMS. And the last piece of helpful background information is about understanding those TOMS roles and how they provide access to results in CERS. So here's a quick recap. California LEA staff will have access to CERS after they've been assigned a TOMS role, and that role in TOMS will determine which features and data are viewable in CERS. So the LEA CAASPP coordinator, the LEA ELPAC coordinator, and the educator district roles have access to results for all students in the LEA. The site coordinators and the educator site roles have access to results for all students in the school site that they are associated with in TOMS. And so far, those roles that we've mentioned, the LEA coordinator, site coordinator, educator, district, educator, site roles, are what we call our administrator roles in CERS. Teachers can access results for individual students in student groups that are assigned to them by an administrator role. So teachers, in addition to their role in TOMS as a test administrator, test examiner, they also need someone with a TOMS administrator role to roster students to teachers in CERS. This is called managing student groups in CERS. We commonly refer to it as rostering, and we'll be discussing managing student groups. We did discuss managing student groups and advanced rostering in Module 1 last week. So if you're an administrator role and you need a recap, the recording of that one is coming shortly. All right, that is enough of the background. Let's do some introductions. My name is Nikki Antonovich. I work for the Sacramento County Office of Education. I will be your producer for this training. This session is led by two excellent CERS trainers. We have Teresa Blanchard from the Office of the Fresno County Superintendent of Schools and Erin Gordon from the San Diego County Office of Education. And with that, I will pass you all to Erin.
Well, thank you, Nikki. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited. And the reason why is because I get to talk with you about one of my favorite features in CERS, and that is custom groups. So buckle up because here we go. Custom groups is actually a really valuable tool, powerful tool for teachers. So hopefully you'll see why by the time we get done with this section. But before we dive deep into custom groups, we really want to start kind of laying the groundwork and doing a brief review of assigned groups and my groups. So when a teacher logs into CERS, the home page will have an assigned groups section. And in that section, there'll be links to the groups of students. Those groups of students are the ones that have been rostered to the teacher by the administrator, specifically the site coordinator or the LEA coordinator. And if rostering has not been completed, teachers will not have any groups under the assigned groups. Okay, they won't be able to see any results for their students. So that rostering is that task is very important so that teachers have those assigned groups. Now, Nikki mentioned last week was Module 1, Beyond the Basics, and we went through the advanced rostering. So if you missed that, please check out the recording. It should be up in another week or so, as Nikki mentioned. But again, if rostering has not been completed, the teacher will really need to start with their principal and contact their principal, make sure that those groups have been assigned. All right, so once rostering has been completed, teachers can create custom groups, and they're going to do that from the assigned groups. Once those custom groups, they will actually appear in the My Groups tab. So teachers don't have the ability to change or alter the assigned groups. However, they have the flexibility and they can be as creative as they want in creating custom groups from those students they're assigned to them. And let me tell you, creating custom groups and even editing those groups is super easy. It only takes a couple minutes. And I'm going to show you a demonstration in a little bit. We've put the step-by-step instructions for creating custom groups in your resource guide. So they are there. But again, we're going to do a little demo in a little bit. So why would you want to create custom groups? Well, custom groups provide reports in a results view that focus on that little set of selected students. So you have the ability to create from those assigned groups a custom group. So an example might be if a group of students is receiving Tier 2 interventions, a teacher can create a custom group to monitor their progress on the interim assessments throughout the year, or they can review the summative assessment results for that group. Another example would be grouping students who scored a level 1 or 2 in a specific science domain. Custom groups can be created by selecting students from each class or period. Usually when teachers have multiple groups assigned, it's going to be at the secondary level, and each class is represented by an assigned group. Well, a teacher can create a custom group from those all of the different assigned groups. And this really can be handy for teachers if the assigned groups contain less than 30 students. And I'll tell you why. There's a report. It's an awesome report. It's the target report for the summative Smarter Balanced Assessments for ELA and math. But you need at least 30 students in that group to view the report, the target report. So a teacher can select students It has to be from the same grade level from multiple assigned groups. And they can create a custom group of 30 or more students, and then they'll be able to view the target report. So that's another example. Also, custom groups can be created for categories of student groups that aren't available in the advanced filters. And an example would be creating a custom group for special education students or for students who have a 504. So these are just a few examples, but there are so many more possibilities for creating custom groups. Now, custom groups can be created with the help of advanced filters in CERS. And the filters include migrant status, English language English language acquisition status. That's a mouthful, especially in the late afternoon, saying that a couple times fast. We usually refer to that as ELOS, so English language acquisition status, ELOS. And that's going to include your English only, your English learner, initial fluent English proficient students, your reclassified fluent English proficient students, and also to be determined students. We also have a filter for primary language and race and ethnicity. So an example would be to use the advanced filter when creating a custom group for monitoring progress of recently reclassified fluent English proficient students. So your RFEP students, they just were reclassified. So you really want to monitor those students and make sure that they're provided the support that they need. Well, we would simply select RFEP under the ELOS, the English Language Acquisition Status, and that will display only those students who have been reclassified. And then from that list, we can select our desired list of students to create our custom group. Another example would be using multiple filters at one time. For example, a person can filter by English learner from the ELOS with the primary language of Tagalog. And then CERS will display the students that fit those two groups. So that's another example. Now, I'm sure already in the Q&A, someone might have asked the question, but we get this question a lot. Why filters such as special education status, foster homeless are not included? And so we have an answer for you. These categories are not included in the advanced filters because personally identifiable information, we call it PII, about students, it only can be shared for specific purposes under FERPA. FERPA stands for Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, and in compliance with all federal and state statutes and regulations, so that certain student level data, such as special education status, foster and homeless status, even free and reduced price meal information, that's additionally protected from redisclosure under FERPA. So CERS does not offer an advanced filter for special education, foster and homeless status because of these privacy concerns. So we get that question a lot, and that is the reason why. Okay, but a teacher can use a custom group to create a group for their special education students. Okay, all right. Well, we're going to do a quick demo of making custom groups. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump into the sandbox, and I just need some verification that I'm on the CAASPP and ELPAC webpage. Thank you, Nikki. So on the CAASPP and ELPAC webpage, we're going to select the CERS tile, the California Educator Reporting System. And that'll take us to the CERS Resources landing page, where I'm going to find the CERS sandbox. And we're going to select the CERS sandbox. And just like Nikki described, unlike the live environment, we have to select a role. And since I want to create a custom group, I'm going to select sample. I'm going to actually go in with a teacher role, but I'm going to select sample middle school. and enter the sandbox. So here I am in the sandbox with a teacher role, and you'll notice I don't have administrator tools, but what I do have is the assigned groups. So as I described before, we have assigned groups, and then we have a tab for my groups. My groups, I haven't created any groups yet, so that is blank. But with the assigned groups, I have those assigned groups through that rostering process that my site coordinator created. They will be listed here. And so my assigned groups, I can go and look at results for that group of students. So as a teacher, I want to create a custom group because I can't alter my assigned groups. I simply click the My Groups tab. The next step is selecting the plus create button, and that'll take us to the new group panel. Okay, so the layout of the new group panel is in two sections. On the left, you're going to have the list of assigned students. Up at the top, you can select from your assigned groups. As you can remember, we have 3 groups in this example that have been assigned, and I can select each group one at a time, and you'll see the students that are within that assigned group. So that's on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side is where I'm going to actually build my custom group. So under group name, let's say I am working with a group of students on some math interventions. I'm going to call this group Math Magic because I just love how magical the custom groups is. So we're going to call it Math Magic. And one of the things I do want to point out, there are subjects, and here's a tip, I always select all because regardless if it's math interventions or I'm a math teacher, I still want to see the results from all the subjects. I want to see their ELA scores or their science scores. So I'm going to select all, but you do have the option to select just one single subject if you desire. I always like to see all of the test results that are available for this group of students. Okay, so I have my name, I've selected all under subjects, and now I'm ready to pull in students for my math intervention group. And I simply click on the name of the students in my assigned group, from my assigned group, and I click on their names, and you'll notice they start to appear on the custom group, the group that I'm building on the right-hand side. So it's just a couple clicks and I can get my students pulled over and create that custom group. So you see how easy it is? Now, if I made a mistake, I simply click on the student's name that I want to remove, and they are removed from the group. I click save, and now in my groups, I have my Math Magic group, and I can look at test results for that group of students. So it's really easy. I can edit the group at any time by clicking on the pencil edit link, and it'll take me back to the new group panel, and I can make adjustments. I got a new student, so I might want to pull that new student in or add additional students as the year goes on. And I might want to remove students from the group. And I simply just click on their name in the existing custom group and it will remove them. I can delete the group by clicking on the delete button up at the top, and I can start from scratch. Okay, we're going to go ahead and save those edits, and I'm going to show you one more way to create a custom group, and that is using advanced filters. So we're going to click the plus create. And again, that will take us to the new group panel. But this time I'm going to leverage the advanced filters. So there's a show button under advanced filters that I will click, and that expands the menu, and it gives me the options to select migrant status, English language acquisition status, which is that ELOS we were talking about, primary language, and race ethnicity. So for the next custom group, let's say I want to pull in a group for all of my long-term English learners. So I know that I will select English learner. And what happens is it filters my list of assigned students to only reflect those that are English learners. From there, I can click on the students that I know are long-term English learners, and I can monitor that group of students. I can go to my other assigned group and do the same thing. Pull my long-term English learners from my second assigned group. And then again, I'm going to select my third assigned group. And I have my additional set of assigned students that I will select. And because I had selected the filter up at the top from the get-go, basically every time I've selected a new assigned group, it just gives me the English learners for that assigned group. So I select those students. I have a custom group that's been created from all three of my assigned groups. I use the filter English learner, and then from there, I selected those that have been long-term English learners. I need to name my group. I forgot to do that. And whoops, I have my caps on. There we go. So LTEL, and I'm going to select save. And now I have that group of students. So again, very easy to do with a couple clicks, and you can create or edit a custom group. Okay, so I've been talking for a long time, and now we are going to go ahead and give you an opportunity. We've put the instructions and the link to the sandbox in your resource guide. And we do ask that you that you enter the sandbox using a teacher level role. So create a custom group using those advanced filters, play around with it, create a custom group using students from different assigned groups. And remember, this is a sandbox, so it's going to look a little different, actually a lot different than the live environment. Fictitious data, little wonkiness, but know that you're using a sandbox. So have fun, click away. I hope you had some new discoveries as you explored CERS. It's always fun. I could be playing around in that sandbox for a long time. All right, well, we are ready to answer some of your questions. So I'm going to pass it over to Nikki, who might be able to find some good questions in the Q&A.
Yeah, not a ton coming in yet. So guys, please feel free to keep those questions coming. You have a plethora of CERS experts at your disposal here. But there are two that we'll cover during this Q&A session. The first one is, would I be correct that the custom groups would be helpful if teachers are providing benchmarks through the interim assessment blocks or the focus blocks or the CAASPP and ELPAC IAs on an ongoing basis?
Absolutely. So the custom groups, they really help teachers to create groups from their assigned groups for students so they can drill down. And an example, if you want to create a custom group for special education students or students that have a 504 and you want to monitor those students and drill down and look at the IAB results for those students, you can create a custom group, and it easily, you saw how easy it is to create. Also, if you're monitoring students, maybe you have some students that are receiving interventions and you want to drill down and monitor that group of students. That's another way that you could use a custom group. So there's endless possibilities, but yes, it really is beneficial as you go through the year, you're giving the IABs, you can drill down and actually look at those results.
Thank you. Okay, does a teacher only see their students that meet the advanced filter? So this was when you were in creating a custom group and using those advanced filters.
Right. So teachers will see students that have been rostered to them. Okay. So that's why that rostering task that site coordinators or LEA coordinators do through the managing group process, that's really important. Teachers will see their whole roster. Okay. Now, advanced filters helps narrow and filter down a specific student group, like English learners or reclassified English proficient students. So the filter helps you to narrow down the existing roster that you've been assigned. And then that would help you to create a custom group. And I
Thank
think
you.
that's
There's
it.
two other things that just popped into the Q&A box that
Oh,
I'll address real quickly and then we'll move along. The first question was about who can have custom groups. So just a reminder, custom groups can be added to any level of CERS user. Teachers need, or sorry, assigned groups. I said custom groups. Assigned groups can be added to any level of CERS user. Teachers can only see results for the students that are in their groups. However, there might be many site level or district level folks that also want to see groups of students. And if you are a site or district person saying, I don't have assigned groups, but I want them, go back and watch last week's webinar and you'll see how you can assign yourself to a whole bunch of groups. It's amazing. And then the other question was about using CERS. I've used CERS for Smarter Balanced IABs in the past. What about CAST and ELPAC interim assessments? And yes, CAST and ELPAC interim assessment results are in CERS. And with that, we'll wrap up this Q&A and pass you on to Teresa.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Teresa Blanchard, and I am joining you from the office of the Fresno County Superintendent of Schools. And we are going to go beyond the basics with individual student reports, which we also call ISRs. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of give you an overview of what assessments that you can find in our individual student reports. Now, individual student reports include results from state assessments that students complete throughout the year. Now, teachers can generate ISRs for any students that are rostered to them in CERS, and it really becomes handy, like Erin showed us, if you have custom groups, you can pull up all of these ISRs that we're going to show you here in a few minutes. Now, ISRs can be generated in CERS for the following assessments. We've got Smarter Balanced Summative Assessments for English Language Arts, or ELA, and Mathematics, California Science Test, or CAST, California Alternate Assessments, or CAAs, for ELA and Mathematics, CAA for Science, California Spanish Assessment, or CSA. I know that can be confusing with CAST and CSA. The CSA is our Spanish assessment. Summative English Language Proficiency Assessments for California, or ELPAC, Summative Alternate ELPAC, and the following interim assessments: Smarter Balanced Interim Assessments for ELA and Mathematics, CAST interim assessments, those science interim assessments, and ELPAC interim assessments as well. Now, we want to give a quick reminder that initial ELPAC results are not in CERS because they are neither a summative assessment or an interim assessment, but you will find the summative ELPAC results for previous years and the summative ELPAC and the interim ELPAC, but not the initial. Now, ISRs help us provide a summary of just how students are doing as measured by the assessments that you're selecting for each report. ISRs are designed for teachers to support making instructional decisions and planning next steps for improving student learning. Now, these reports are one of many measures that assess students' academic progress. And when ISRs and assessment results are analyzed alongside additional information, such as classwork, observations, and local assessment data, this can give teachers specific information and coaches and admin. We can get specific information about student progress, and that can help us decide some instructional next steps and make decisions about maybe custom groups or students you'd like to work more with as you prepare for assessments annually or you give the interim assessments throughout the year. Now, it's a great way to help teachers identify areas of strength and areas where students may benefit from additional instruction or support. And ISRs can be generated and downloaded for each individual student assigned to a teacher within CERS. Now, teachers can generate them in bulk as a printable report for groups or classes of students. And we will show you this time-saving tip of downloading ISRs for groups of students during our live demo. Our coaches and admin can also download these reports in bulk and help print those out for teachers to use with their students, maybe to do some goal setting conversations or to review in their PLCs and data meetings. Now we're going to do our second demonstration of this training. Now we will be again using the CERS sandbox, and I'm going to come over here to the CERS webpage on our CAASPP-ELPAC.org website. So I'm going to be in the CERS sandbox over here, and we're going to enter as today I'm going to be a middle school teacher from Sample Middle School, and we're going to enter the sandbox by clicking that blue button. Now you see I have my assigned groups. Someone who is my LEA coordinator perhaps has rostered these groups, and I have access to. Today, we're going to dig into our Sample Middle School Grade 8. So I'm going to select that group here. Now, my goal is that I would like to actually look at some of my students' assessments. Now, if this was the end of the year and we took the CAST or the Science Grade 8 Summative Assessment, I can actually select that by, and I did that so fast, I'm going to show you what I did, clicking that plus sign here. And it's going to give me all of the assessments that I have available for this school year. Or I could go back into previous school years and select an assessment that I'd like to maybe pull and generate an ISR for. So I would love to see for my students, we've worked really hard getting them ready for the CAST or the Science Summative assessment. This would be maybe in the summer or maybe at the very end of the year if I got my scores in time to analyze, and then it uploads my results and I can actually see for all of my 189 students that took this CAST assessment in grade 8, I can see what their student score distribution is. Now for me, I would love to see a certain student that I have maybe an IEP for or a meeting that's coming up with. Now we have, let's see, I think I have Christopher Bridges here. Now he got a level 3. And I really want to download an ISR for this student. So any of these students have these 3 dots in the blue highlighted name section for each student. And I'm going to actually click on Print Christopher Summative Report. So if I click on that, it's going to give me a pop-up printable report menu. And I can go ahead and click on Create Report. Some of our menus here, they may have some choices, but because I'm looking at the summative CAST, it only gives me that option. I just want to look at that assessment, so I'm going to hit Create Report. And that will take me to my Reports tab. And as you can see, we have the assessment type, the subject, the year, and then it will tell me once it's complete, it will change from pending to complete. And I did a little bit of digging in our sandbox earlier, so I do have Christopher's ISR available. It will be something that we can download and you can save to your desktop or wherever folder you would like in your personal device. So this ISR has the date, it has the student's SSID, it has the school district information at the top, and then the reminder that these results are only one indicator of a student's achievement. So we really want to make sure that these assessment results should be used alongside other information such as classwork, perhaps teacher observations when making those educational decisions. And we can see at a glance how our student did, how maybe close they were to scoring standard, the next level, like standard exceeded, where the student scored standard met level 3. And we can also scroll down and see for each of the domains in our CAST assessment, he was above standard for life science and earth and space sciences, but then near standard for physical sciences. So this really gives me a lot of information on the CAST assessment. Each of my ISRs for each report will give me something different. So if I go back in, we're going to go through the steps again, and I just want to perhaps get an ISR for a different student or more subjects for analysis or review, I can enter the sandbox. And one quick tip, if you have a student's SSID number, I'm going to use one of my students here. The homepage for our CERS, the live environment and the sandbox gives you the opportunity to search by student. So I'm actually going to put in one of my other students who's in 8th grade, and we're going to see all of the assessments that she has access to that would show up in an ISR, or I can pull up in an ISR report. And so this is the student's test history. It groups by subject area, and I can click into each of these if I would like. But what I love is that the printable reports, that ISR button is up here. As soon as you get into that student's test history, you can click on printable reports, and you actually then have some options. If I want to look at interims, it would be IAB/IA. If I want to look at summative assessments, maybe from last year or a specific year, I can make that adjustment. Or I can look, maybe this student is an ELPAC student. We're getting ready to give the ELPAC. I want to see how she did last year. And maybe look at all her interim. She's been taking interim ELPAC. And I want to look at last year's summative ELPAC so I can switch the school years accordingly and then create that report. And that will go into my reports tab. I actually downloaded Asia's sample ISR, and I can see like last year she took the English language arts summative assessment here. And you get this beautiful graph again on the ISRs. You can see by composite or domain. For ELA, there's an extra feature which I really appreciate, that you can see what genre that the student has been assigned and some of the scoring for each of the sections of the rubric for organization purpose, development, or content, and then conventions. You can also see, if I was pulling up that ELPAC assessment, we've got a great visual of how the student scored. Very, very close, barely scored level 2 here. So this is a really great way to sit down with the student and say, look, we want to make sure that you are ready to level up, that you have made progress this year. Look at how close you were to scoring level 1, but you scored level 2. So now let's see how close we can get to level 3 or higher and have some of those conversations. And it does break it down to you in a visual way. These ISRs are very well designed for teachers, and sometimes teachers to meet with students to discuss how they're doing, which are different than the student score reports that are available in TOMS that are designed more for parents. So there's lots of different ISRs for both the summative assessments and the interim assessments that we have available here. Now I want to show you, I let it kind of marinate, as my colleague Joe likes to say. So sometimes it does take a while to go from pending to completed, but once it is completed in your My Reports tab, click those 3 dots here, download that report, and it will go to, sorry, it timed out for me, but it will go to download that for you if you download the report data and you pull up that student's ISR that way. So everybody's computer is a little bit different on how they download and save the reports, but those should be available to you as you generate those. So we talked about creating individual reports for individual students. You can search the SSIDs. Now we do want to show you how to bulk download before we give you a chance to test it out yourself. So I'm going to go back into my group, or I could do a custom group if I'm in grade 8. And if I'm in this section where I'm reviewing the results or selecting the assessments and reviewing results for each of my assessments, right here, when we go into our grade level groups, I can actually select printable reports. And I can then, again, maybe I'm looking at summative from last year. Maybe I'm looking at all the interims that I've given for this year. And I can look at specific subject areas. So I'm just going to pull maybe math and then create that report. And that's going to take maybe a little bit of time to download. But what I love is that I can have, this is our interim cast, for example, all of my students. So we have Richard Bella here, and then it goes to Brian Byer, and I can at a glance scroll through and have a whole PDF of all of those individual score reports for my students in one document. And I can do multiple subjects if I would like as well. But sometimes downloading them in individual like subject areas is helpful for different classes and grade levels depending on your context or role. Now I'm going to go back here to our slide deck because I would really love to give you a chance to explore our sandbox using your teacher role or an admin role that matches something that you serve in your LEA or your site. And I'm going to go ahead and remind you that the instructions and a link to the sandbox are in your resource guide. Now consider completing one or all of the following tasks. It's completely your choice. You can either create an individual student report for one student, or you can generate a bulk report using the reports, printable reports button or option to create ISRs, hopefully for a group of students. It may take a little bit of time to download, but feel free to look at those menus and explore. I hope you were able to explore the CERS system and generate a few ISRs, whether that be bulk or individual students. We did get some really great questions about some of those ISR options. So I'm going to turn this over to Nikki to see if we can answer any live questions.
Yeah, I've got another 2 questions for this round. My first question is, when I'm generating those ISRs, can I click on more than one subject at a time? Like, can I get ELA and math ISRs? Because the example you showed was like the CAS summative, for example.
Yeah. So when you do bulk printing with the ISRs, you can select all, which would give you more than one subject. You can see ELA and math separately, especially when you're viewing the results in the student view. So when I did the first demo, we printed the report from the results by student view, and we were looking at the CAST summative assessment for grade 8. Now, the assessment will default to that assessment that you are viewing when you select the student from this results view results by student view. But if you do want to select certain assessments in the printable reports, like the bulk printing option, for any of the assessments, you will have to select ELA and then the year you want to view it with summative and then math. Unless you want, again, all of the summative assessments, then you will have ELA and math on that, and you can filter those accordingly. So if you select the printable reports button, the assessment selection you can choose, but then you can, decide if all serves you better or if you want a specific subject grouped within the PDF that you're generating.
Thank you. I love those options. Either all, it gives you everything, or like a batch of ELA and then a batch of math if those are the only 2 subjects you want, and then you don't have to filter through everything else. Thank you, Teresa. Other question, can we share these ISRs with parents and families?
So ISRs and CERS are really intended for teachers. They're designed with teachers in mind to use to make instructional decisions, to figure out, instructional groups. Now, we can use ISRs with parents during maybe teacher conferences or student goal setting conversations, but the teacher really should be there to explain the scoring, the results, because it can be very confusing and there's a lot of information that's more teacher focused. So just kind of, check your resource guide for directions about how to create the ISRs in bulk. And just know there are different reports, the student score reports or those ISRs in TOMS for summative assessments that are intended to be, printed or digitally shared with parents every time we give those summative or annual assessments. So SSRs are in TOMS, ISRs are in CERS, and those again are more for instructional conversations that teachers should be present for.
Thank you much. Let's wrap this party up.
All right. So we have a few additional CERS resources that we want to support you in your use of CERS. And as we talk about each resource, you will notice that the links are in your resource guide. And this way you hopefully can save that resource guide somewhere, and that will give you easy access to finding all these great resources in one place. Now, Let's cover the CERS resources, which are all linked again in your resource guide. Most of these resources we will mention can be found on the CERS resources webpage as well. The CERS resource webpage contains buttons to access the live CERS environment and the CERS sandbox. So you saw we kind of logged in with the CERS sandbox on the right. The left side is that live CERS environment. The CERS user guide and interpretive guide, which also can be accessed through the CERS or the CERS sandbox. You have the CERS instructional videos, which includes the Understanding the California Educator Reporting System video for all CERS users and a series of quick reference guides, which walk you step by step through various CERS functions. And we want to remind you that we do have introduction to CERS trainings that were recorded as a series of micro-learning videos. So this can allow you or other maybe colleagues that haven't joined these state webinars, it gives you the flexibility to watch the entire training all the way through or to pick and choose specific topics without having to view the full training. And to close, on behalf of the CDE, the Sacramento County Office of Education, and your training team, we thank you for spending your time with us this afternoon. Have a great day.